Well, thank you, Joshua. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I have to say that I'm really happy to be here on this opportunity to connect with all of you and to learn, share, and pair also knowledge about this AI governance and participatory AI governance approach. Today, I'll be sharing a case study pretty much on, a case study on that hopefully will spark some ideas on how to run a global participatory process on AI governance, with the example of a process that we did a couple of years ago with UNESCO on the governance of digital platforms. I'm Sebastián Calderón, as Joshua said. I'm from Colombia, and I work as head of research and development at I4Policy Foundation, Innovation for Policy. It's an organization that works building participatory processes at a global, national, and subnational level. And yeah, we've been developing processes, frameworks, and collaborations on AI on this. So this is the agenda. I have to say that I was really excited when I was invited, and I prepared 30 slides, so I need to go really fast. And I'll go fast in some of the sections of the presentation, all right? So I'm gonna share who we are at I4Policy, what do we do, the case study, and then present the methods that we used basically so hopefully we can spark and we can discuss some ideas here. So Innovation for Policy Foundation, we are an organization that was built 6 years ago, and we are pretty much in a mission of building a better future by placing the power of the collective at the heart of decision making. We have been working on how to build collaborative governance structures through participatory processes so that people affected by everyday problems can participate in the solutions of those problems. And in the past years, we've been developing a methodology, a framework that's called Addis decision thinking. It's pretty much a process in which it's a methodology to support collective and collaborative governance. And it's a non-linear framework based on how to create a shared understanding and a common language on different stakeholders so that they can participate into a long-term process of decision-making. So we've been developing this in different startup and labor acts in different countries, Senegal, Nigeria, Zambia, among others. We've been using this methodology for in Ghana for agroforestry policy making. We've been using this also for data governance processes in Tanzania, in Mozambique, in Lesotho, and in global processes such as the Global Assembly, one experience that I'm not gonna have time to share here, but after it in the coffee or in the at lunch, I can share it. So we started developing this process, and we used the Addis process to start developing this document a couple of years ago with UNESCO. It's called the Multi-Stakeholder AI Development, 10 Building Blocks for Inclusive Policy Design. And this was really a process in which we started identifying how can the multi-stakeholder approach and the deliberative approach can inform both on the processes of policy design in AI governance, right? And this was pretty much the first step that we take for what we're doing right now. That is a process of collective intelligence that we call it collective intelligence for artificial intelligence. It's a process in which we are identifying how, what are the principles, the standards, and the frameworks that people use across the global south to really understand responsible AI and kind of how can responsible AI, how do responsible AI really looks like in countries and in different communities across the global south. We're developing that process. So let me jump into the case study. It's called Participatory Development of the Guidelines for the Governance of Digital Platforms. So in 2022, UNESCO started launching this process, basically, the guidelines for governance of digital platforms. And this was a global process in which they wanted to have this multi-stakeholder approach at the heart of the initiative, right? So in this process, it was a process of 3 steps, 3 main phases of the project, in which we gathered kind of 10,000 contributions from 134 countries. More than 5,600 people participated across the 3 stages of the process, and I'm going to show that next. So in phase 1, that is called openness, UNESCO started like developing an approach in how to conduct, right, an expert-led conversation on AI, on governance of digital platforms. So they commissioned the research for research from Research ICT Africa and the Center of Law and Democracy, and they gathered they started developing a document in which they shared afterwards. The document with 35 experts and 47 networks of digital governance. And that's pretty much the numbers of this phase 1, 64 stakeholders and 965 contributions. It was a process pretty much expert-led, and they identified also that there were mostly inputs from experts from Europe and from North American countries. So they needed like a wider and a broader approach of participation, right? So that's when they started creating this phase 2 that is called accessibility, Internet for Trust conference. They brought 4,000 participants online and in person, and they gathered these 4,000 participants and 3,236 contributions, like a more wider process of participation. But there was still, and that's when IFR policy came in. We introduced new facilitation formats and different ways of engaging in the digital conversation. But we also recognized that there was still a necessity of bringing more people and more underrepresented voices into the process. So that's when we started developing and designing these methods that are the deliberative consultations. We started actively reaching out to organizations that were usually excluded due to language or cost or technical barriers. And these are pretty much the numbers. I won't go through them, all of them. I think the presentation will be shared afterwards. But we conducted 57 deliberative consultations, 44 3D consultations that I'm going to present, and we gathered 6,200 contributions. So just to show you here, and this is something that I want to highlight, this is pretty much the different places where the inputs came from. And just to highlight here that we gathered 54% of submissions from Africa in this process, in this decentralized and deliberative process, compared to the 5% in phase 1 and compared to the 13% that UNESCO gathered in phase 2. So this pretty much shows how the design, and this was also something that was discussed in the previous presentations, how design choices rebalance power in global discussions and include voices of underrepresented people. These are pretty much the impacts, and again, I won't have time to go through them, but one of them that I want to highlight is these guidelines were benefited by broadening the understanding of regulation beyond the state action, and by strengthening protections for cultural expressions, artists, and indigenous communities in the guidelines, and that was introduced into the guidelines. So this is pretty much a case study to show the methods that we designed and we facilitated. So the first method that we designed for this process and to try to broaden this participatory approach throughout the process was deliberative consultation. And it's a deliberative consultation is pretty much a process where participants learn, deliberate together, and share individual feedback. This was designed to gather informed perspectives from different parts of the world, and also for those familiarized with deliberative democracy, it's really similar to deliberative polling, but I'll show the differences in the upcoming slides. So the first step is really pretty much learn. So participants started the process with learning more about the topic by hearing different perspectives of different people and kind of framing the questions with experts also. Then they go to deliberate. So pretty much the participants take time to digest the content that they just learned on about the topic in different small group discussions and with different people that they are facilitated to discuss to. And then afterwards is sharing. So it's a process in which finally participants have the chance individually to share their feedback about the topic through different private forms or de-identified forms. So it's a really simple process based on 3 steps: learning, deliberation, and sharing. And it's used basically to gather these diverse perspectives to foster a deeper understanding of complex issues and to help develop well-rounded and informed decisions on different topics. And the difference between, for example, these sortition-based methods, such as the deliberative polling, is pretty much that these, as I said, they're based on the basis of sortition, right? How to select people that pretty much mirrors the different composition of the population that is going to take that decision. So in these global processes, we identified that maybe that was not only the question that we wanted to address, but also how can we again address the imbalances of power and influence and kind of try to gather as much inputs and as much diversity on those inputs geographically, in terms of experience, of knowledge from different people across the world. So that's when we took a step forward into the what we call the 3D consultations, that are distributed, decentralized, and deliberative consultations. And yeah, these processes are pretty much the ways in which we can conduct deliberative consultations, but training different local organizers or local communities to have their own deliberations within their communities, right? So we pretty much trained and supported local organizations to run these consultations themselves through microgrants and also training processes and supporting processes. And yeah, in this UNESCO process, we trained community organizations remotely. We supported them to understand their role, to plan and organize the events, and to communicate about the process. We kind of identified the microgrants, and with these microgrants, we use them to remove those barriers of access, sometimes for organizations and for local organizations to be part of these processes. So on pretty much to cost the venues, the internet, and the admin costs. And also we provided materials, videos, ideas of agendas, ways of facilitation, right? Different techniques of facilitation, so that they can, no matter the expertise and no matter the different parts from they can gather and conduct these processes with 15 to 20 people from their community, and then afterwards gather the inputs and send them, share it back again with to the process of the guidelines of the whole guidelines of UNESCO. So yeah, I'll stop here. I think my time is over. Just to show you some pictures of the processes, and yeah, I know we will have a Q&A part afterwards, but I just wanted to show you, if you want to scan the QR codes of different method guides or practical guides for running deliberative consultations and how to run also 3D consultations. This is the case study that we developed with UNESCO, so that you can see the different parts and the different sections of openness, accessibility, and then inclusivity. That was the phase 3. And the design of those methods. And yeah, that was all. Thank you.